Fukushima is going on 3,000 days. So I knew the Chernobyl documentary, which, by the way, this is important. The Chernobyl documentary on HBO, it's very good. I've seen it. It's pretty damn accurate, but let's get real. It's pure plagiarism. As I watch it, I've seen the Battle of Chernobyl, the 2006 award-winning documentary. That's what this is. He obviously watched it, but it takes contemporaryism because the fanny goats have to be fed and they have to be led by mainstream media. All this dynamic over the last decade about alternative media, alternative media, alternative media. It is still mainstream media to this day that moves culture. That's when criminal charges are filed. It's not till mainstream documentary, whether it be Netflix, HBO, whatever. By the way, that's not alternative media. And so, of course, alternative media got butchered. So they still lead the American contemporary sheep around by the noose. It is mainstream media. So I knew that the HBO documentary miniseries, one of the people that worked on it ran it by me. By the way, my HBO documentary hat she gave me was stole. So, which pisses me off. But anyway, so everybody's coming to me 3,000 days too late, and they expect me to spoon feed them like we're in kindergarten. I teach at the highest level. I will quote one of my great professors at this university, Weber State University, the great Dr. Lutz. The mind is not a storage shed. You can regurgitate. I don't want A students in here regurgitate me. He says, I'm not going to finish anything. You have a keyboard, or well, this is before keyboards. You have a library, use it. You know, so the mind is not a storage shed. The mind is a workplace. And the contemporary regurgitating goat, feigning goat, the American populace has turned into, they're not going to do anything anyway. So, you know, that's what this is. I've never been about that. So first off, I want to talk about this. So you people that say, oh, Fukushima isn't this bad. So I'm going to show you a study, international study that was done in June of 2011. Now this is before Fukushima blew up for the second time. Fukushima blew up on June 14th, 2011 again. I have video proof. You know, we have it. It blew up again on May 20th that year. It blew up multiple times. I mean, blew to smithereens. Spent fuel pools blew it all to hell. You know, MOX fuel. And then I'll compare and contrast Chernobyl real slow-like with Fukushima. Because the HBO documentary has got the world abuzz. Which blows my mind. There's nothing new in that documentary. Absolutely 0.0 new. This is all stuff that everybody's been told from 1986 forward. But I guess, you know, and I understand the youth. I'm not blaming you, but I'm talking about us as baby boomers that we all know. You know, there's nothing new in this. It's good, but it's basically it's nothing but it's a plagiaristic piece that basically just plagiarized the hell out of the Battle of Chernobyl, which is it's factual history, so you can't plagiarize factual history, right? So, first off, I leaked this. I got cancer on 11/11/11. I'm screaming and going crazy the day Fukushima on this campus. Everybody's laughing at me. I'm like, are you kidding? You saw the live cam. It blew up. Hello, it blew up. I mean, look at it. MOX fuel was in that freaking plant. Oh my God, multiple cores melting down. So this was a study. What? There was no international study done? Oh yes, there was. It was leaked to me in 2012. I was full of cancer and the bone marrow transplant center fighting for my all but dead. I was getting everything. I don't know how I did it. I want people to understand something too. As a research Ph.D., as the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the historian, the heavy burden that I have carried for this 8 years while fighting for my, you know, me and Dane up there has picked up a lot of the slack. He's done a lot of great work in Canada. Durnford. Look him up. So, this got leaked to me. Everything was being leaked. They had nowhere to go because alternative media was a clown circus and mainstream media just plain covered it up. So they were coming to me in droves. I mean, it used to take me hours and hours. And I can speak, like in my last video, I have one of those observational minds. I always have since I was a child. I remember the first time I read East of Eden, I read it in 2 hours. I mean, I can read a novel this thick in an hour, for real, and I can retain it all. I mean, I have one of those brains. And even I was overwhelmed with the amount of emails I was getting in the early days. Anybody who was anybody had nowhere to go, including people inside Japan. If you don't believe me, ask Rachel in San Diego. Her dad is out there. Ask Kathy E1. They were trapped inside. They said the only information they were getting in Japan was from Kevin Blanch. And so this was leaked to me. This is the international KOA International Study on Fukushima. Multiple boats, multiple countries, multiple universities, multiple Ph.D.s, including Ken Buesler, who the Dog and Pony Show, you know, and by the way, that's why Ken Buesler, you haven't heard much from him. He's hiding, spending his billions. I outed him, and he's like, oh my God, Kevin Blanch is on to me. I better quit doing what I'm doing, his lies, you know, his bucket sample test he was doing. So here it is. So I got leaked this in the abstract long before the conclusion was even put together. It was in raw form when it was leaked to me. Cesium and iodinium and tritium in the Northwest Pacific waters. A comparison of the Fukushima impact with global fallout. Now I want you to look who these names are. Province, Ariana, Rondolph, Arbeiser. What? K. Buesler. That's Ken Buesler from World Hall, that guy who smoked and screened, Dog and Pony showed all over the internet. Oh yeah. Who lied? C.C. Chang, Augustison, Huff. I mean, you could see all these names. It goes on and on and on. Professors from all over the world. By the way, I tried to talk to the University of Arizona, of all people, professor whose name's on this. I talked to Ken Buesler. Of course, they had no intention of this being out. And let me tell you why they had no intention until I leaked it out. And it got leaked to me, and I put it in there. Because Aaron Swartz, Kevin Blanch. That's the reason I got such a fight going with this university. People don't realize this as a Ph.D. in the United States. For that matter, most of the world. 10, 20 years ago, they circled the wagons and captured all the information with Ph.D.s. They own a publishing house globally. New World Order? No, it's Old World Order. So you have to turn over all your Ph.D., everything you do, to them. It's a publishing house. They control it all. Talk about freaking against the First Amendment of the United States. That's why Aaron Swartz broke into MIT Media Lab. And they killed him. By the way, those are professors at Harvard. Yes, the guy inside the Situation Room who orchestrated the cover-up of Fukushima. His name's John Holdren. He's a professor at Harvard who put Aaron Swartz up on... And then Ortiz, the guy who killed Aaron Swartz, the Obama administration. Hey, man, Ortiz? Yep. So that's their name. So let's read this thing. So all you people that say, oh, it doesn't touch the Fukushima. Now remember, this is June of 2011. We're talking 90 days after the catastrophe. 90. We're going on 3,000 now. You think anything's been done? No, it's worse today than it was yesterday. It's worse yesterday than it was the day before, and so on and so forth. So here it is. So the background studies of the Northwest Pacific is compared with the guide fallout from the atmospheric test of the nuclear weapons test. That's Bikini Atolls. Why they're saying now that the dome's leaking. It's always been leaking. By the way, it's still inhabitable to this day. You know, so these are compare and contrast. We know the background levels to a fine science. It's been heavily documented by the United States government. So I don't have my glasses, but I think I can see this well enough. So I have it memorized. Global fallout from the atmospheric test, blah, 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 blah. Surface and water column samples collected during the so this gives the full name, but the hypothesis for the name, you can Google it, is KOK, International Expedition, carried out in June of 2011, were analyzed for cesium-137, cesium-134. Iodine, you know, several others, but why cesium? Now this is important, now stay with me. So cesium-134 and 137, one's natural occurring in the atmosphere, it can naturally occur, the other cannot, it's man-made. Just like plutonium is man-made, which my Fuktonium thesis, because this is new. The half-life is 6 years on one, the other is just a matter of months. So you have to catch it fast. So the other telltale is tritium, of course. So they had to get on this early, which they did, and I could prove you how it's still ongoing. It's even worse because, and I'll get into that here. So the levels of seawater offshore Fukushima varied between, and it gives the scientific on becquerels, not Madame Curie's, respectively as the sample site, about 40 kilometers from the coast, where all 3 radioisotopes were analyzed. So they collected 3. The Fukushima impact on the levels of these 3 radioisotopes represent an increase above the global fallout background by factors of about, first one, 1,000 times. You heard me right. 1,000 times. The second 50, the third 3. Do you realize that 3 times the background, 1.5 times the background is a catastrophe from 1,000 times 90 days in? Okay. Now this is out of the abstract. Represents an increase above the goal, okay, blah, 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 3 times. The water column data indicated that the transport of Fukushima delivered radioisotopes downward into the depth of 300 meters has already occurred. They observed the level of cesium-137 levels at the surface levels in the water column, compare and contrast presentations into the water column, into the Pacific. Hello. Into the Japanese current, into the atmosphere. Hello. That would have never been out there if it wasn't for Kevin Blanch. I leaked it. So then, now let's remember, Cal Berkeley, the head of the snake. So, also the milk study that was being done at the time, that got leaked to me. I put it in the internet. I put all this stuff in the internet. So the abstract, the conclusion's been written now. And it's out there, God and everybody to see about it, because it's like they say in Chernobyl. It's real simple. Now I'm going to quote the Battle of Chernobyl in 2006, which I consulted on that. It's a masterpiece. Now remember, the girl that I was with for years and years, Annika, was a Ukrainian girl. Born in the Ukraine. Okay? She's 2 years younger than me. So she'd have been 24 years old when Fukushima happened. She was the second of a family of 6 children. There's 1 left alive, by the way, including she's dead. So she said they came to the house the night of Chernobyl. She says, they said, the 2 brothers, I believe one was 19 and one was 16. Let's go. You've been called up. You've been drafted. You got 30 minutes to grab your stuff. Let's go. Where are you going? Just let's go. So they went. Died very shortly thereafter. The one brother was dead within a month. They murdered those guys. But we had a guy named Gorbachev. Remember Gorbachev and Reagan? Gorbachev's probably the greatest anti-nuclear activist besides Freedom Eisenhower. Now this is real important. On the 200th anniversary of Waterloo, I was at Freedom Eisenhower's house in Austria. And I shot that video this morning talking about Waterloo, blah, blah. Who knew the camera was going to stop on 1815? And it did. Oh, the intuitive mind, Einstein. So, then we're going to talk to Voto the later part of this show. But this is really important. So, let's talk Chernobyl. Chernobyl was man-made, right? The problem was an error. Now, there's lots of, these are not conspiracy theories. I don't talk conspiracy theory. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I'm not. I'm a factual historian. I'm a Ph.D. I'm an environmental economist. I'm a historian. I'm a writer. I'm an activist. I don't do conspiracy theory. I don't even bother with it. I have enough to handle that's right in your face. Chernobyl. Chernobyl was widely reported in the United States. It was on the nightly. Why? Because the Cold War was still in earnest. Gorbachev and Reagan had made up and kissed and made up. Okay, the wall was coming down. They both agreed to get rid of nuclears. We had the SALT Treaty. All this stuff was evolving in the early 80s quickly, right here in Utah. So much of this was being done. They had agreed. Nancy Reagan was a hardcore anti-nuclear. Remember Patty Davis took off her clothes. I talked to Patty. By the way, Nancy Reagan's funeral was on the 5th anniversary of Fukushima. I was there. So, so you had a group of anti-nuclears. Ronald Reagan, the old Democrat from California, the old environmentalists who jumped ship, Bechdel's baby. So they were, nuclear was done. The Cold War was over. You know, when this happened, we know after watching, which I already knew all this, I mean, you knew this, the entombment process. So in the Battle of Chernobyl, they say, well, we have to do this. 750,000 men are going to have to give their life. If we don't do this, we have to find out. We have to find out. They went in at 10-second intervals, these guys, to try to get the course. They entombed it, which was only partially entombed. It was a mining operation. You know, and Gorbachev ordered it. Now, this is real important. A guy named Igor, you can look him up. Famous photojournalist. Really, talk about a risk taker. Now, I was in Vienna when he died. This is real incredible story. Same trip to Vienna, 200th anniversary of Waterloo. I'm protesting the IEA of Fukushima in Vienna, Austria. All roads lead to Vienna. All roads lead to Ogden, Utah. So, we would never know this tell if it wasn't for Igor. The Soviets would have covered it all the way up. So Igor had a friend who had a plane. The rumors were flying all over. Hey, one of these, that new one in the new city, which by the way was where Stalin had drained the marsh. It was a giant wetland and created these man-made cities after the backs of the Russian famine. The backs of World War I, II for their wheat belts, you know, because the fight between the U.S., they couldn't get our wheat, you know, they were starving. So they turned it in. It was a marsh. They drained it. That's where Chernobyl was at. So he's got a friend who's got an airplane, helicopter. Let's go in there. Let's go see. Are you crazy? It's all restricted. You know, the rumors are flying. There's an accident, but we know it's air restricted. We can't go in there. He says, we got it. We got it. You know, it's probably melted down. That's what we're hearing. You know, people talked. The guy says, they'll kill us. They did it anyway. That's what journalists with balls do. And these journalists now are a bunch of black and yellow whores, weaklings, cowards in handcuffs. They're not journalists. They are weaklings. Now, I've had to use a YouTube camera because my classroom, you know, it's a powerful genre. I've been abused. You can't handle the truth. You don't want the truth, you know. So they say, in this documentary, they say, well, the writer said, I listened to the writer's podcast, and he says, well, I went internet crazy. I'm sure he's watched plenty of my videos. And this is where I led me down this rabbit hole. And I was like, God, this ain't no conspiracy. This is all real. How do I not know all of this? Yeah, how do you not know, dumbass? You know, you just went into denial about it because it's all over there. It's just them Russians. So, he says, well, the lie is told. But the world knows that it's a lie, and the world is willing to go along with the lie. Eventually, that lie just catches up over and over and over. Well, 33 years later? Are you kidding me? Too late, too late, too late. I had to do this in real time. I did Fukushima as it happened. That's what good art does. That's what good science does. That's what good professor. Good science does this right there in real time. But good science puts it out in front of God and everybody to see. You think I was going to hide my work? I could have got rich. I could have got rich writing books. I could write books right now, and I could sell. I was thinking about this today. I could write books on multiple subject matter and sell. I bet you I could sell 10,000 books a day, easily. Do I? No, because I know this is that urgent, and good science and good history records it in real time, and I have a genre called YouTube, the great equalizer. Circle the wagons on me. I don't care. So. It was a new reactor. So Edward Teller, and if none of you know who Edward Teller is, I want you to Google him. So let's go back to the beginning of the Manhattan Project, which a big piece of it was here in Utah, which is all run from Weber State. Floor construction, Waters Construction is the nuclear industry. GE is this place where we sit. The Manhattan Project. So Einstein, the Quaker, the peace activist that he was, you remember his scientist wife, his friend Leo, his best friend, they all came from, including my bloodlines, come from the same town, the same university. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire, the old one, had fallen down. So, Einstein had a dream when he was a child that light bent. So he was 11. He said, Einstein was not a very good mathematician. Einstein said, but he was smart enough to understand, to listen to the intuitive mind. That's what I do. He says the conscious mind should serve the intuitive mind, not vice versa. You got it wrong. He held on to that dream. So he's trying to prove the theory of relativity, which is all based on where this came from, light bending. So I always go back to Meltdown a lot, fractal physics. I can get into it. So they're testing gas on the battlefield of World War I. Who's involved with that? The Browning family from Ogden, Utah? The Browning family's on the field testing their weapon. It doesn't jam. They're killing up to 1,800 a day with this gun. They're still fighting in purple plumes. Side by side, they're testing with gas. So Einstein is a gas. Einstein's a peace activist. Einstein's having a fit about it. So his friend, Leo and gang, says, oh, no, 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 this is humanitarian. It's going to speed up the war. It will speed up the war. There he is. We'll talk about...
What's up?
We're going to talk about Devoto here later, but let's finish this narrative. So Einstein's pissed. So Einstein's working on... So there's a famous observationalist, planetarium, one of the great scientists in the history of the world. His name's Campbell. He's in California. Have you ever been to the Campbell observatory? I mean, that's the guy, all the way back. He has an observation tower in California. Einstein finds out about it. Einstein says, well, the only way we're going to test their relativity, we've got to have an eclipse. So the eclipse is coming in 1913, 1914, in Crimea, of all places, Russia. By the way, you know who was in Crimea when the war broke out, besides Einstein's crew, Campbell and gang? Dorothy Day. Dorothy Day, the greatest radical activist who ever lived, who went psycho about freaking this. So Campbell set it up for the eclipse. World War I breaks out with a Browning gun, shoots the freaking king in Sarajevo. Black Hand. I like these idiots around here that call themselves anarchists. Any of you young people that are calling you anarchists, stop it. Stop it. You do some work on anarchy. Don't you dare call yourself an anarchist. You'll end up under a prison. A real anarchist? Whoa, whoa. So, Black Hand were a real anarchist. And so, the war breaks out. They seize Campbell's equipment and throw him in prison. So here's Campbell. Einstein's relying on his work. He's in the gulag in freaking Russia. Goop, missed that eclipse. Next eclipse is coming up. It's clear in Australia where the best light is going to be. Campbell's equipment's gone. Campbell's back there, but they said it's going to be pretty well observed in Oregon. Campbell says, I'll go to Oregon. Campbell sets up, he's got shitty equipment. He sets up in Oregon. He reports to the scientific muck-mucks in London. They always got to be first, don't they? These royal monarchies, you know, the Darwins, I can go on and on and on and on. They always got to be first, don't they?
The fake ones.
Yeah, exactly. The fake ones. But anyway, so Campbell says, oh no, wrong. Einstein got it wrong, doesn't bend. Well, there's a guy named Eddington, another Quaker. Secretly, he set up shop in Australia. At the nick of time, he shows up and says, wait a minute. Oh no, it bends slightly. The rest is nuclear history. And so Einstein became the most famous person on Earth overnight. He wrote up in every journal, this guy had it right, blah, 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 blah. So he moves to Long Island, New York with the rest of the elitists. That's where Einstein's living. So the war's heating up. Hitler's gone mad. Hitler's an Austrian. Back to Frieda Meisbauer, a little girl, she stood up to him. Had to crawl on her hands and knees out, the greatest anti-nuker. Waterloo on Balco, and that'll tie us into Across the Right, Missouri. Bernard Devoto, who wrote lots of that about Waterloo and the weaponry, and Fama K. Brody, who wrote lots about it from this town, the Freudians. So, he's in Long Island. His friend comes to Long Island. Leo the Lizard, I call him, who, by the way, died in La Jolla, the head of the snake, at San Diego UCSD in La Jolla, which Scripps is at. By the way, so you know, Scripps in San Diego, the kings, the nuclear gods are, her name is Browning Scripps. Browning Scripps. Yeah, that Browning. The greatest war profiteers in history. They all tie together. It's a club. So, he comes to Long Island. He says, you know, we're Jewish. Yeah. What, are you telling me something new? You know? What do you mean? He says, well, Hitler has, you know, he's genociding us. He has this weapon. What do you mean he has this weapon? Gas? Like you've been using? No. By the way, where is the gas from World War I? All the gas from World War I. Where's it at? Utah. Utah.
Oh, really?
It's in Dugway. They've been decommissioning the nerve gas for 50 years out there. Another 30 to go.
How did they do that? How do they contain gas?
They in canisters. And it's quite a process. I've been out there. Whoa. So that's where it's at. So it's at Dugway. Remember when all the sheep died in '68? Nerve gas leak, killed the ghost shoots, now Energy Solutions, same old Samo, same freaking floor construction, Ogden, Utah, freaking war profiteering team. Browning's on Balco. So he shows up and he says he's got this weapon. He split the atom. He's got this weapon. You know, he didn't call it nuclear bomb, and Einstein says, no, he don't. No. Einstein says, I'm connected with everything Nope. He spent 3 days convincing Einstein. Einstein at the end of his life says, my biggest regret, I knew he was lying. Hitler never had it. Was never close. He was experimenting with heavy water in Sweden. You remember? You remember when Hitler blew the dikes in the Netherlands? But he was never even close. He was lying to him to get the U.S. involved. So he writes the letter, Einstein, a personal handwritten letter to FDR. Says, FDR read the letter. The Manhattan Project was born. They opened the faucet, unlimited sums of money, and they never shut it to this day. Price Anderson. So Einstein says, this is my biggest regret. So they find the greatest physicist in the world, bar none, the most brilliant, probably, mind in the world, J. Robert Oppenheim. They find him. So J. Robert Oppenheim, this is going on, but it's important. I'm going to stop this and start because this camera's got a mind that only goes 30 minutes.
We're recording.
Oh, good. So